Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander Clash podcast, where we talk all things Commander. And this week, we are reacting to a Reddit thread about new underrated cards. So, we're going to go through the comments. We're going to talk about the cards, and then we're going to give it an upvote or downvote in Reddit fashion to see if we like these underrated cards. It's the fabled three-man podcast today. Phil and Seth are away, busy doing things. So joined with me today is Tomer, Budget Commander. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I love looking at hidden gems, so this is right up my alley.
Krim, the Asian Avenger, on a 1-hour power nap. How are you doing?
I had a very good 1 hour sleep, to celebrate my favorite holiday, which is Halloween.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, now I have to deal with all the Mariah Carey and all the Christmas music starting.
Merry Christmas.
I will tell you, I went the morning of Halloween to Target and Costco to buy some candy. Halloween was already cleared out. They already filled it with Christmas decorations and everything. I'm like, Halloween hasn't even happened yet. I'm trying to buy some last minute stuff.
Dude.
They're fast.
Wow.
Thanksgiving hasn't happened.
Mariah Carey is just at 12:01 was thawing out of ice and just ready to start singing.
Yeah.
I'm not Christian, and I actually do love Christmas, but I kind of wish that it only started in December. It feels like November 1st is a little bit early for the Christmas.
It's just the music.
It's time to start consumerism and buying things, Tomer. I am your host, Richard, the Codfather, and we will be going through Reddit's underrated cards today. But before we do that, today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. Card Conduit lets you skip all the typing work associated with buy listing. Their curated service lets you send in as many cards as you want with buy list value $1 more, and you pay just a 5% service fee. And you can use their sorted service where you list and sort your cards and pay only 2%. You get a detailed report and fast payment once your order is processed. You can get 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/mtggoldfish. So thank you, Card Conduit, for supporting today's show. And let's hit up Reddit. So the thread we are looking at is literally titled New Underrated Cards. And we are going to start off with the most upvoted comment, 46 upvotes. A Reddit Dorkly says, in singleton format, getting an extra use out of any card is a bonus and should not be underestimated. Sword of Once in Future is better than people seem to think. We've talked about the sword before. Let me pull up the sword for you guys. It's a blue-black sword. So 3 mana. You equip it, pro blue-black, +2/+2. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player's surveil 2, then you may cast an instant or sorcery with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put in the graveyard, exile it instead. Played in 1% of decks according to EDH Rec. Underrated or doo-doo? Krim, you designed a blue-black sword for us.
Yeah.
What do you think about this blue-black sword?
I think this card is hot garbage. It's like hot garbage. I don't know. I still downvote this. I do find it, yes, before anyone, yells at me. I do know that there are a few decks that this can go in, right? Like it's fine in some decks, like let's just say like Narset. The 4-mana one with prowess, getting to cast your 1 mana, whatever, it doesn't matter, back just to pump is fine. I played it in my Questing Beast deck that we filmed in Commander Clash because I get additional fogs as a way to just, when I swing with Questing Beast, I prevent all the damage that would be dealt to my creatures, but also still deal all the damage that I would deal. So, but yeah, like there's a few niche decks, but I'm sorry, it's just Surveil 2 and then anything 2 or less that's instant and sorcery. Like maybe if it were at least like, I don't know, like a permanent or just you may cast anything or play anything, that'd be fine. But like it's just an instant or sorcery. It's just not good enough.
I totally agree. It's a very narrow card. Like a lot of the swords don't really ask too much of you other than dealing combat damage, like Sword of Feast of Famine just untaps all your lands, or Sword of Fire and Ice just draws you cards and deals 2 damage. This one specifically requires you to have instants and sorceries mana value 2 or less in your graveyard, and you need to have a critical mass of that. If you're swinging with a sword of once in future and you don't have one in your graveyard, then it basically, the combat trigger is almost useless. So like, yes, it is useful in a handful of decks. I really like it in Tetsuo Imperial Champion. That's my favorite home for it, but it is incredibly narrow. So I think it's rated. It's not underrated. It's
Yeah.
just rated. It's 1%, and that sounds about right.
It's possible it's overrated. I don't
Possibly, yeah,
I can't even
actually.
think. I can't. It's so like, what is a deck that's just full of like 1 or 2 mana spells that you want to cast randomly? Because usually they're storm decks or something, right? Where you're just like trying to pop off with them. You're trying to breach with them. This is like you're casting it for fair every turn. You got to hit with combat. If you're playing like a Voltron deck or something, like that's kind of useless. And I don't know. It's sus. What do you count Surveil 2 as? Is that a draw 1? Like people say like Scry 2 is draw 1. Is this this fuels your future sword hits to then get something? Like, is this worth anything?
You have to fill your deck up with so many spells that just like, yay, I get to cast Opt again, right? Like you know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think Surveil was worth that. It's not a card, that's for sure. It's like a quarter of a card, maybe half a card, maybe, if we're being super generous.
Triple downvote on the most top rated comment. Well, actually, it's a 2-parter. I think this one might pull up that comment. Runescarred Demon came out a long time ago and still claims a decent price. By comparison, Hoarding Broodlord is definitely undervalued at the moment. So Hoarding Broodlord is an 8-mana black spell, triple black in its casting cost, 7/6 dragon, convoke flying. When an ETB, search your library for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may play it. Spells you cast from exile have convoke.
This card, I do agree, is criminally underrated. I think this card, it's at 2%, right? Which is like, I think this card, okay, maybe not criminally, but I do think that it is an underrated card. I think this card is very strong. I think this whole set, although I can't remember the name of it, I think this was March, right?
This is March of the
Machines. Set
Machines.
symbol is. This set, I've said it before and I'll say it again, is loaded with commander gems between Fairy Mastermind, all the precon stuff, Hoarding Broodlord. All these cards are like dirt cheap, underutilized, and all pretty damn good.
Wait, if the Broodlord dies, can you still cast the thing from exile? Yes. But you lose the convoke ability.
You lose a convoke ability.
Right.
I think this card is also rated. I feel like you really want to be in a go wide deck. Like, it's not enough to just be like, oh, it's Prosper, rabble, Prosper, because like you have just Prosper on the battlefield, and then you can tap Prosper and then pay 7 to do the Hoarding Broodlord thing. I don't know. I don't think that's worth it. I think you need to have like a good chunk of creatures on the battlefield for this card to be good, and otherwise, no.
You sound like a Runescarred Demon hater.
Yeah, when was the last time you put Runescarred Demon in your deck? I don't know.
You just need a random Durly creature, and then this is already Runescarred Demon, but it's even better because the spell you cast could be convoked as well.
Yeah.
So like if you are a Runescarred Demon believer, then I think Hoarding Broodlord is a straight upgrade. I mean, there's some situation where you get Wrath or something and you're at 7 mana and you can't cast this, but usually you can convoke this out. It's also a dragon, which may be more relevant than a demon. But
yep,
I think
Runescarred Demon's at 3% of decks. So
I think this should be above Runescarred Demon easily. Like this card, you don't need to be a go wide deck, right? Because I think if you can just convoke this, make it cost 2 less, that's already 6 mana. Then like even like obviously you could do even more than that, but like there's a lot of things that you could do with this. And then if you're playing cards like Opposition Agent, all of that, you get to then play these cards, right?
Yeah. If you're going wide deck, this card is absolutely cracked, right? You're just like,
Yeah,
free
yeah.
tutor, cast a thing,
Like-
I tutor for free, right? You're like,
Yeah.
that's disgusting, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's cracked in a go right and a go wide deck as well.
My favorite home for it is the least reverent medium. It's an Orzhov tokens deck, and it just poops out a lot of spirits, spirit creatures, and then you can just tap those spirits and have a hoarding Brewlord, and then cast a thing for free. Essentially, it's really good.
All right, I think we ended up at 2 upvotes, 1 downvote. So,
Rated.
the good news about 3-man cast is there is no chat GPT tiebreak. So
Yeah.
we are controllers of our own destiny today.
It's up.
Next top level comment, 27 upvotes from Earthen Heart. Picked up a Feast of the Victorious Dead for my Alendra the Dusk Rose deck. Such a great card for any Aristocrats deck in those colors. So, Feast of Victorious Dead is Orzhov. So white, black, 2 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if one or more creatures die this turn, you gain that much life and distribute that many +1/+1 counters among creatures you control.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so let me get this straight. This is just a 1/1 counter if a thing or more dies, or is it for each creature?
So
That
for
dies?
One or
'Cause
more creatures.
so
At the
it's
beginning-
just
so it's
one.
just one.
So yeah.
So for each creature that died, you will gain a life, and you'll get a +1/+1 counter to distribute.
Okay. So
At
Wait,
your
wait,
end
wait, wait.
step.
If one or more creatures died this turn, you
Yes.
gain that much life and
Yes.
Oh yes. So yes,
Yes.
this triggers once for the number of creatures that died.
On your turn.
then yes,
On your end step.
and for 2 mana, I think that Feast of the Victorious Dead, which is okay. If we are reading this right, you will get a life and a 1/1 counter for each creature that has died this turn. If
Mhm.
that's the case, this card I think is underutilized. Orzhov is the colors where this is like perfect for you to sacrifice things, and like whether through tokens, aristocrats. Unfortunately, that's like pretty much all Orzhov decks, so it goes in every Orzhov deck.
Hey, life gain is a thing too.
Which, yeah, sure, which still plays kind of like an aristocrat deck. So yeah,
I actually agree that this is a little bit underrated. Like, I wanted to say my gut instinct, 2% sounds rated to me. But then I looked at the top commanders, and a lot of the like Krim said, a lot of the aristocrat decks in Orzhov, they care about sacrificing things, but they also care about +1/+1 counters. So you're doubling up on the goodness. Alenda the Dusk Rose is a good one. Felisa Fang of Civil Quill and Brimaz Blight of Oreskos are all about like sacrificing things and then putting +1/+1 counters on things. So I mean, this card is made for that stuff, but they're all like 12%, 13%, 10% of decks. I think that should be a higher number for
Yeah.
those particular decks. If you care about aristocrats and counters, then it's very good. I think this set, by the way, is just like, I think the set in general is underrated. Aftermath, March of the Machines Aftermath just has like so many gems. It was just like a garbage fire for selling the product, but like there's so many good cards for very specific decks in this.
I think this card is exactly rated.
Yeah.
I mean, so some aristocrats decks care about +1/+1 counters,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot do not, right? Like you're like sacking your whole board. It doesn't matter if you're like stacking +1/+1 counters on a blood artist. Like it doesn't really matter. For Alendra the Dust Road specifically, like she cares, right? Because when Alendra dies, you make vampires equal to the power. So you care about pumping her. So in that deck, everyone should be running Feast of the Victorious Dead. But for aristocrats in general, I don't think so. And even like a generic Orzhov deck, like I don't think so. Like you just want to be getting sack outlets and lots of dirty creatures. The life gain, I think, is irrelevant in a generic deck. Like your aristocrats things are gaining life already. So very specifically, aristocrats, Voltron type decks where you're trying to stack up +1/+1 counters. This works at 2%. I think it's aptly rated. But you should definitely be running it in Alendra if you're not, or Alenda. I mean,
yeah, Felisa is also really good because when you sacrifice it, if it counts the number of +1/+1 counters on the sacrifice creature, and then it makes that many 2/1 ink tokens. So like, the more counters on your stuff, the better. But yeah.
Right. So 2-1 upvote.
Yep.
Upvote.
So up we go.
We upvote it.
Next comment. RT Livin at 19 upvotes. Make an example. This card is so insane it blows me away. When most people don't know or run it in every black deck. Okay, make an example. 4 mana sorcery. Each opponent separates the creatures they control into 2 piles.
Wow.
For each opponent, you choose one of those piles. Each opponent sacrifices the creatures in their chosen pile.
Yeah,
New Capenna
they do.
Commander, by the way.
I've never
That
read
card
this card in my life. What?
Wait, no, I played
Why
it.
is this good?
I played
Why
it
is
on Clash.
1% of decks. Did you?
You probably didn't read it at that time either.
You didn't read it? That's
New
fair.
Capenna Commander is just a black hole in my memory. I swear. I just don't know that these cards existed.
Okay, so the opponent makes the pile.
Yes.
And then you choose the pile that goes bye-bye, and it's a sacrifice. So
It's
they can't,
fact fiction for
Edict.
edict.
It's
Yeah.
destructible.
Yeah. It's so sick, dude. I love this card.
Is it?
I fully agree that this card is underrated, right? It's in 1% of decks. I think this should be like 2 to 3% at the least. And then on top of that, like, yeah, this plays real nice in a lot of black decks. And maybe y'all already know this. I'm an Edict supporter. I'm a huge Edict supporter. And I love this card, right? Because this is potentially 2 to 3 Edicts. Depending how big the board is, the opponent then has to make the piles. And the one thing I've learned from playing Modern and all of that is trust that your opponents will make the wrong pile. And then
I mean, if this is underrated, who's used to making creature piles of their deck? They'll probably screw it up.
Like
I actually agree with Krim. I think this card is actually gas. Like, so the problem is that if your opponents have like 2 really good threats, you're always going to kill the best one, but then the other one is going to live if they did their pile correctly, right? But you're going to do that for each opponent. So this for 4 mana is going to kill the best thing each of your opponents have, and then going to kill extra stuff as well. But it also doesn't hurt your board. So if you're doing like compared it to a Damnation or something, yeah, Damnation will kill everything, but it's also going to kill your creatures. So if you actually care about having your creatures stay alive, then this card is actually really good. So I actually like this card in decks with lots of creatures on the battlefield, or creatures you don't want dying as well. And honestly, it's a black hole for me in memory, but I think this card is actually really good.
Yeah.
Upvote.
I think this card is doo-doo. What is the point of this card? So
known
like Silver said, it kills like roughly half, and like of the half, like the best creature goes. But then the other half remains.
Yeah.
So you just did like 4 mana spot removal on everyone at sorcery speed.
Yeah.
Which
so you're telling
right?
so you're
like,
telling me
like just wipe, play a proper one-sided board wipe like Kindred Dominance or something.
But that's
play
like
a proper
7
board
mana.
wipe if you want, or play spot removal that lets you actually do things you want to do at instant speed.
But spot
like, why
removal,
play this conditional thing? It's like Fade Away or something where you cast it and like the thing you want.
It is
happen
not
doesn't happen.
Fade Away.
Let's not disparage
Not
Fade
Fade
Away
Away.
here. We don't have to bring Fade Away into the conversation.
like
So it can be good if you need things to hit the graveyard and you like actually don't care what it is, and you somehow need your creatures alive. But like, what deck is that?
Yo, this might be gas since this year, actually. I need to.
I think it would be gas.
Put in an order real
Hero.
quick.
No, like this is sweet across the board of a good amount of black decks, dude. Wait. You really don't like. Okay, actually, you know what, Richard? If I remember, you hated edicts, and you also dislike spot removal. You only like playing board wipes, so that, you know what? It makes sense that you don't like it. But the one thing I thought would appeal to you is that this is not just a piece of spot removal. A piece of spot removal takes the big thing, sure. But I'm talking about sheer, like, just like this takes away the big thing and potentially extra stuff. Like you're
But
getting
at
this.
sorcery speed.
Sure.
So like if you were in a pod of 3 Voltron players, then by all means make an example of them, right? Because the sacrifice gets around the indestructible or the hexproof
Yeah.
or whatever, right? So that's very good. But you got to do this at sorcery speed, and like Krim is right. It's just like a mega edict, and I hate edicts because you can't
I
really
love
choose. You get
edicts.
more choice here.
You hurt me,
But
Richard.
sorcery
You
speed, if
hurt
this
me,
was
I'm just
instant,
saying.
we could be talking. But
If
at
this was
sorcery
instant,
speed,
it wouldn't be underrated. I think everybody would play it. This card though,
at
I don't
sorcery
know.
speed, I think you just want to clean it up with like a board wipe or a one-sided board wipe. Then this like weird kill half the things, but at 4 mana still, it's not even like that much cheaper than a proper board wipe. I don't
Krim.
know. We gotta see this in action. Maybe it plays a lot better than I'm thinking, but I
We're
can
gonna
see it
have
just
to
not
make an
doing what you
example
wanna
out
do.
of
Yeah,
of
Richard, I guess let's
Richard's
make an
creatures.
example. Again, this is more than one spot removal. This is multiple spells against multiple opponents. This is so good.
But what if you just played Damnation and just took the whole board?
But then you
don't
lose
have to
your
That's the
worry.
problem. You
creatures.
took the whole board.
Yeah.
You didn't leave your stuff.
I like leaving my
Yeah.
stuff, honestly.
Yeah, I mean it's very good if everyone's running indestructible things, but then again, you still get got by Teferi's Pro. So the phase out strategy still works here.
I definitely want to try it,
yeah.
but 2 upvotes right now, so
Okay, 2 upvotes. Make an example. Go into the top.
heck yeah.
All right,
Heck
Ninja
yeah.
Dough starts off with tribute to the World Tree. I don't know if it's underrated. It is definitely not underrated.
It's
12%.
8%. I don't think
It's
that's
8%. It is obscenely
literally
overplayed.
and it's a
like
new
very
card
good card.
too. It's a new card too. So I think it's like people understand that it's broken.
Okay. The second card in their comment was Sandwich Steel Seeker has worked pretty well in my Gruul Golem deck. So Sandwich Steel Seeker, 2 green, 1/2, Human Artificer Scout. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put the card in your hand, you may put it in your graveyard.
I love this
So
card.
you get to draw lands off the top, essentially, or put them into the graveyard if it's not a land.
I love this card. The only problem is that like it's really good in artifacts, I think. And it's really good in food. I think the food is actually where it's really, really best. It's just like green just often just doesn't do artifact stuff. I think more recently, I think the card gets better and better because we just got Lord of the Rings and we got like a full Wilds of Eldraine where green is big on food. So I think it's really good in a food deck. I think it's ideal in a food deck. It's just like it's card advantage. Like it puts a bunch of lands into your hand, and then if you have any sort of like graveyard self-mill strategy type thing, then you have a bunch of gas in your graveyard. Like this card is really, really good. But it's just narrow. It has to be in like a deck that cares about artifact in green, which is like kind of small.
But like even in the realm of an artifact deck, I'm assuming this is still underplayed because even in the realm, but like actually I think it's accurately rated because in any kind of deck that wants this, even because I know it's niche, even the decks that want it, why would they want this card?
Because
right, like
so
I
many
don't think
lands in your hand. They'll have land drops for days. It's like land tax. It's literally like the green artifact land tax, if I could say it that way. And then it also fills your graveyard. Actually,
it's
better than
land tax because it's not basic, so you can
yes, and
snatch
it fills your graveyard. And like obviously, a nice healthy graveyard is a happy player, you know.
But if you don't put it to hand, you put
it's
it
a surveil, right?
It's a
So if you
surveil.
don't put it on hand, you put it back on top, or you can put it in the graveyard.
Yeah.
So it's a surveil on top of that.
Yeah.
This is basically that the Dragon Rage channeler thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like
no, but it's better because
CRC
if
with
it's a land, it goes into your
you
hand.
get to draw land.
Isn't it Explore? Isn't it like what Explore is? No?
Explore puts a +1/+1 counter.
But then you put it in the
And
graveyard.
then you
right?
can surveil.
Yeah. So this is like Explore. Instead of +1/+, you don't get +1/+1 counter though.
This is cracked. Do you need to be an artifact deck? Okay, let's think.
Yes.
So if you play green,
sure.
Are you playing mana rocks? So if you're playing mono green, obviously not. If you are playing like 3-color decks or something, 4-color decks, are you playing mana rocks? If you're playing mana rocks, that may be enough to do this. Treasures activate this. So if you're
Clues.
playing with red, this works. If you're playing mono green, even stuff like old Gnawbone. And remember, whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, so if you make 10 treasures, you're doing this 10 times. Clues, tireless tracker actually combos with this because it gets the land in hand to make another clue. Tireless. I'm surprised Phil doesn't play this card.
Lowness, whenever you make a creature,
Food,
you make a
obviously,
clue.
already
Samwise
mentioned,
Games
yeah.
you, whenever you make a creature, you make a food. Honestly, though, I'm looking
This
at
may just be good enough.
this
no?
card is really good. However, I am
Great
looking at
hand.
EDH Rec, and like Samwise Games, it's 48%, which I think is like it's still too low. Honestly, it's still too low. But like I think people know that this is pretty good. It's just you should pump it up. Like Lowness, I think if you have a Lowness deck, you should put this card in. I just think straight up, you should just do that.
Yeah.
And it's only 25%. I think it should be at least 50. But yeah,
People don't need lands.
This card
I
is
like
so
the fact
good.
that it's a land. You can load up with like non-basic lands and stuff like that and still get this. So yeah, that's a triple up. That's a triple up vote, right?
this card is so sick.
I'm a downvote.
Oh,
You're a
like,
down vote?
never
You're not a
mind.
believer?
We've never
Okay,
agreed.
it's
I get there's just the deck slots are thin, right? So like this has to be better than, let's just say, I don't know, if you're mono green artifacts, you're wild. You're wilding out over there, but there's like other things that you could be doing, right? There's even the rare from this set, right, or whichever set, the elf, when an artifact hits the graveyard. I don't think this is worth it yet.
Dang.
I'm gonna try to force this. Like with solemn, I don't know, burnished heart. like I think like
No.
great hand. There's like these random green cards. Tireless tracker, everyone loves to like there are these just like
Sure.
the staples that green plays makes stuff, right? So obviously if you're a food deck, this thing is cracked, right? But just a generic deck, there might be enough artifact synergies. If you're like 5C and playing Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, blah blah blah, like maybe this is just straight up good enough because draw a card or surveil is incredibly powerful, right? Or draw a land or surveil is incredibly powerful. All on a 2-drop. It's a 1/2. It's a human, I guess, if you have human synergies.
Or
but-
scout and synergies.
yeah, I don't know. Or, like if you're playing sort of Feast and Famine or sort of Forge and Frontier or something, I think there's just enough incidental artifacts to make this happen. So I'm going to try this and we'll see if this works. How convoluted you want to be. And you can even go super deep and play the artifact lands, the indestructible ones. If you can play the destructible ones if you're feeling extra saucy.
I'm not that far into the camp, but like if you're a food deck, clue deck,
There's
treasure
potential. There's potential
deck,
here.
artifact deck, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Also
wow.
from the same comment, we have Glimmerlens. A lot of new toys for my equipment deck in the Rebel Precon. Glimmerlens.
The Glimmerlands?
Yeah, can I find Glimmerlens? So 2 mana.
Mm-hmm.
White artifact equipment. 4 Mirrodin. When this ETBs, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token, then attach this to it. Whenever equipped creature and at least one other creature attacks, draw a card. Equip 2.
I have
Do
this.
we like Glimmerlens?
I have it in my equipment deck. It's very good in equipment, but like it's narrow, I think.
What about go wide decks that
Yeah,
are not
it's
equipment decks?
It's
Well,
fine.
what are equipment decks?
I
Like
mean-
a Voltron deck, will you have a second creature to attack with? Like it has to be specifically a certain type of equipment deck.
It wants to
right?
be kind of go widey. Yeah.
I could, it is weird. I mean, yeah, like an equipment deck has like maybe 2 bodies tops, right? At all times. If you're playing like an aggro deck, like I don't know, like humans or I don't know, spirits even, do you want an equipment?
Well, it comes with
That-
a body.
It comes with a body, but like
The body
go-
sucks.
yeah, the
It's a
body
bear.
sucks.
The body
The go
can't
wide
attack.
deck doesn't. I feel like the go wide deck doesn't want this, right? Because a go wide deck would then instead play like I don't know, the land, right? The land from Lord of the Rings that does it. There's lots of other ways for them to draw if they're a go wide deck. That's easier to get like to trigger and to also not invest like a ton of like time and mana into. If I'm playing an equipment, I'd rather play a more powerful effect, maybe like sort of body in mind, like stuff like that.
You lost me, Grim.
Like any of those swords would, I guess, I think those swords are more powerful than Glimmer. And if those swords aren't good, like we can debate whether those swords are 23 powerful or whatever. But like if those are under debate, then I don't think this card is getting picked over that in an aggro deck. So I think this is rated.
I think this is probably overrated, if anything. Like,
no.
So when cards like this first came out, same with I think Minas Tirith is the land Krim is talking about. You attack anything that requires you to attack with multiple creatures. I thought like, oh, that's easy. I have lots of creatures. In practice, they never pan out because you're like chump attacking and you're gonna lose creatures. The only case I see this as useful is like birds or something with like inherent evasion. But even then, I would have played in birds. But I have stopped playing like all cards that require you to attack with multiple creatures, right? Because one, you have to have multiple creatures. Like you need to not have gotten Wrath. But two, you need to get through combat and you can't sack your team. Usually the way go wide decks work is you go wide, you overrun and one-shot someone. Like you're not sitting there like chipping away and like losing all your chump attackers every turn. So I actually don't like this equipment, and I don't like the land Minas Tirith. And I don't like anything that requires me to have multiple creatures continually attacking because it's hard to get them through. Like at least Voltron, you can suit up your one creature and like keep it alive and give it evasion and let it go through. But to do that for multiple creatures over multiple turns is a tough ask. So I have started cutting all of those cards. So I think Glimmerlands is actually overrated. You shouldn't put it in your equipment deck.
So I agree that you need evasion for these cards to work. There's also like an enchantment that literally does the exact same thing as Glimmerlands. We also mentioned the land. There's even like Firemane Avenger, a creature that literally does the same thing. It's like you need to attack with two creatures, then you draw a card. So like we have a lot of versions of this. It just matters like what card type you're looking for this effect. But like, for example, Nahiri Forge and Fury is the most played commander for it. It's go wide equipment. Nayali is go wide tokens. It gives them double strike. Othari is also like, it's kind of Voltron-y, but also go wide. I think those are all great homes for it. Akiri is my equipment commander, and it's also go wide equipment. Ishin is also like, you draw two cards because you double the attack triggers. I think there's homes for it, but yeah, you can't just like jam it anywhere, and you really need protection or evasion, or else like you're just attacking into blockers and then your creature dies, and is that worth drawing a card? No. But yeah, and you have to be like not in
reconnaissance, the one that lets you untap your attacking creatures.
That's evasion. Like, and you have to not be in blue,
like if you have disposal creatures, just skull clamp them, man. Like
no,
like,
but then you lose your creatures. Difficult. What if I want my creatures? Whatever.
You draw double the cards and you don't need a combat.
I think it's rated. It's not like not underrated.
Oh wait, was this a triple down vote then?
Yeah.
Yes. So I like the card though. I running Kira, I'm happy with it there, but you don't. It's 1%, and that seems correct.
All right. Lurks often. Green Sun's Twilight in Magus Lucia Kane. Turn after she comes out, I can hit it for 5/6 mana twice. So, Green Sun's Twilight. X green. Reveal the top X plus 1 cards of your library. Choose a creature and or land from among them. Put those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is 5 or more, instead put the chosen cards onto the battlefield or into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Wait, so this is a tutor? So you put it into your hand if X is less than 5, creature or land, and X is 5 or more, you can put it on the battlefield or into your hand.
It's just bad Genesis Wave. Let's be real here. It's just bad Genesis Wave. Like, it costs a little bit less mana, but like,
okay, Genesis Wave is pretty good though. Is bad Genesis Wave still good?
It's a fine card, but it's still 3% of decks, and like, I don't know. Just run Genesis Wave. I guess you run both.
Wave is...
But it's a single, right? It's a single thing.
You got two things. You get a land and or a creature and or a land.
Isn't this just like straight up worse than like Finale of Devastation or
Well, Finale gets you
Green
one
Sun
thing.
Zenith? But I mean, did you really need the land with the
land.
creature? Like, was that the
Oh.
difference maker to restrict your searching to the top X versus your entire deck?
Downvote.
Isn't this over? This is 3% of decks. Am I missing something? Like, why would you do this?
It's
So you could do X, look at the top 6, and drop an Eldrazi into play. You can cheat mana with this, right?
But then you don't get
Yeah.
the cast trigger on the Eldrazi.
Okay, maybe, okay, I don't know. Like, insert random dirtily 10 drop that you want to cheat into play that it actually works. Like Nyx Bloom Ancient or something. Like you could theoretically cheat mana with this card, and that's why you do this.
Sure.
I think it's like it's pretty flexible, dude. It going up the mana curve. I think that, and like you being able to just get it onto the battlefield, like I don't know,
that's
maybe
like a Green Sun Zenith. Okay, so Green Sun Zenith restricts you to green cards. Finale of Devastation is green X. That's anything. Is it? Is it anything?
But
But it's graveyard or library.
but this is like Genesis
And
Wave
it
does the same
overruns.
thing, except it's all
But
the
it's-
permanents. You just be
It's
like,
all the permanents.
and
Yeah,
and
but
then you put them all on the battlefield, and it's great.
but
this
this
is
is
too
this
fast.
is yeah, but this is 50 cents.
I know.
Green Sun Zenith is like $9, right?
How much is Genesis
So-
Wave?
Genesis Wave?
Okay,
that I
Finale is
don't know.
$20.
Yeah, Finale is
Yeah,
$20,
Finale
right? And then
Okay,
Genesis
so budget
Wave,
option.
it's
Genesis
a
Wave is
solid.
like $1.
Sure, Genesis Wave.
Oh, Genesis Wave
Genesis
is
Wave.
free, but okay, it's it's XXX green though.
Yeah.
So
If
it's
you're in a
terrible
deck
when
that
you don't
generates
have
a
enough
lot
mana.
of mana, then sure. Or you're like an X spell deck, you know, or you have just like a lot of floating colorless. Sure.
I would say that, okay, so let me look here. If you take a look at like on EDH Rec, right? Like, so let's just see how much Green Sun Zenith is getting played, right? Like, what's the percentage of that card? The card is 8%, right? That is 8%. We're not even going to argue Genesis Wave because Genesis Wave, I think, to me is a different card. So I would say that Green Sun Twilight being only used at 3%, I actually, you know what? I think this could go up. I think this
Downvote.
could be, I think this has an upvote for me.
Oh, this is so
Downvote.
Crim. Like, think of what you actually do with this, right? X is 5. Okay, for 6 mana, you look at the top 5 cards and put a creature from that into play.
And a
Yeah,
land.
Sketchy. Or and a land. Sorry, you get a land and a creature. Like that's only the top 5 cards of your library.
And it also could
Yeah.
be just like a bad creature too. Like, what if you just like hit a Wood Elves or something? You don't even get something
So-
good.
It's like Coco, but like
I mean-
one card. Right?
But you went up to, so let's say you did that.
But
It-
only if you have a big thing in the top 5 cards.
I mean, I'm
You
like,
gotta
but
like
you're still
scroll
getting-
rack. You gotta combo this together, or you gotta Sylvan Library. You gotta do
Ooh.
something.
If you have like an Oracle Muldai or Sylvan Library, and you know the land, you have a land on top, you can pay 2 mana, and you just rampant growth out the top land of your library.
Oh snap! We played this as Rapid Girl. Is that what's going on here?
dude, it could work, dude. I'm sorry. I think this card is underrated. At 3%, I agree. It is underrated.
All
You're,
right.
you're telling me that you think it's
3%
so
seems
bad.
so high. I'm curious where. It's
Wait,
being
you
played,
think that's
but
okay? Okay.
I think
was
this card is like stone unplayable. I'm missing something. So I could get. So the comment was talking about what's the commander called? Magus Lucia Kane, which
Yeah.
lets you add 2 colorless when casting a spell with X, and then it also doubles that. So I could see like you're trying to play Green Sun Zenith 8 to 9 or something, right? So that's why this
Yeah.
card is in that deck.
You want every
if
X
you just-
spell.
If you remove that commander, I think this card is like doo doo. Is this so highly rated? No, it's 1. It's not even a precon card. I don't
Yeah,
even.
I think
Like-
3% is very accurate. Like, obviously, if I'm running Magus Lucia Kane, this is a staple, you know?
Yeah.
Belleby,
Yeah.
Corrupted Observer is another one that sees a lot of play. Staple. But, like, I don't know. Trash. Down.
All right. Wait. So 2 downvotes, 1 upvote. So this one going down. Jim Vlad 116. Until they print Reckless Impulse with Flashback, Mishra's Research Desk is a great emergency card advantage in red. So the Research Desk, 1 mana artifact. Pay 1 tap, sack it, exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. Unearth 1 and a red.
I think this card is 0%, though. Yeah, actually, this is rated. This is rated. I think this is rated.
I didn't know it was possible for a 0%er.
Yeah, like I didn't know it either. But you know what? Yeah, I think this is rated. Because I see it all the time in standard, but in a 60 card format, I could see it being good. But like, why would I do this over, I don't know, like Ren's Resolve or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like there's just better things I could be doing than playing this artifact that would then require me to play it, pop it, then unearth it, right? That's 4 mana like in total, or 5 mana because then you have to activate it, right?
So it's 2 mana to look at the top 2 cards, choose one. So it's 2 mana to basically cycle, and then 3 mana to unearth it and do it again. This is like think twice with like digging a little deeper, but artifact synergies.
I'm gonna be a meanie and
Urza Saga.
I'm gonna say underrated. I actually like this card. I just forgot it existed because there's too many cards.
Where though?
So like if you care about artifacts really badly and you want to have as many artifacts in your deck, and you care, especially if you want your artifacts to be sacrificed, I think this is pretty solid.
So like
it's not
eggs?
that bad. Huh?
Like an eggs deck?
Yeah, like
Maybe?
an XD deck. And then also like Prosper, like if you care about casting stuff from
Prosper
exile.
does.
Okay, yes, it works with Prosper. Yes,
It's also
Does
like
it,
11
though?
cents.
Would you
know?
would you actually put this in your Prosper deck?
No.
Like I know it theoretically works with Prosper, but
Why
would
not?
it actually make the cut?
Why not? It casts stuff from exile. That's what you want to do, right? And it does it
Because
twice.
there's like 60 other cards that are way better than it that you
Yeah.
want to put in your deck.
Well, okay, you cast it and you immediately sacrifice it for 1 mana, so that's 2 mana total. That's basically a Ren's Resolve at that point. But you can also just like play it or then sacrifice it later on for just 1 mana investment, and then you unearth it and you could do it again. Like that's pretty good. That's not bad. 0%? Come on. Underrated.
It just feels like it's always the like 131st card.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like a bomb or anything, but it's 11 cents. Come on, budget.
But there's better. Yeah, but even budget, there's better. Ren's Resolve is like 10 cents.
No, it's like
I feel red.
no.
You're never this desperate. This is like 5 mana, draw 2. I feel like we're never that desperate, and I feel like whatever synergies you have with the rest of your deck will never make up for the fact that it's 5 mana, draw 2. That's my gut intuition, but I'm sure we can come up with a deck where it actually works, but this seems a little sketchy.
Yeah, there's a deck where it can go in, where it could work, but that doesn't mean that you want it in there.
I think 0 is probably about right.
Oh, all right, I'll take my beats.
Okay, two down votes, 1 up vote.
Okay.
Wildfire Awakener from Fresh Dibby Dibby. So, X, 1 red, white. It's a creature, human wizard. It's a 3/2, convoke. When it ETBs, create X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens with whenever this creature becomes tapped, it deals 1 damage to target player. So you can convoke this thing out and make X elementals, and when those elementals become tapped, it deals 1 damage to target player.
This is the same set. This is the March, but Commander.
Yes, this is March of the
So-
Machines Commander.
Like
It was
this
in the
set-
Convoke deck for reference in Castle the Broken Halo, which is just the Convoke commander.
Yeah. This is interesting. I kind of like it, but I'm also in agreement that 1% sounds about correct. If this didn't make elementals, I'd probably like it a lot more.
What's wrong with elementals?
I don't like elementals.
I think that honestly, there's like so many more types that can like synergize well, like humans, yada yada yada. If it made human bodies, it could go there. But let's say just Jeskai tokens or Boros tokens, like sure, it's fine. Like I kind of like I like the card. I think the card is sweet. 1%, you know what? 1%, let's just say 2%. I think this could be 2%, right? This could be 2%.
That's double. That's double.
That's
the
double.
usage.
I mean, that's its best case scenario. So I think in reality, I think this is rated because this is dependent on you having also all your stuff and not getting wiped yet.
I think this is a well placed 1% because it's a token maker, but it requires you to have a lot of tokens on the battlefield already to make those tokens. Because otherwise, it's very over. You need to convoke like 5+ creatures already to make your tokens, and then you have a lot more tokens, and that's a good rate. That's fine. That's solid. But then if you don't have a board and you want to make tokens, this is real bad. So it's really good in a convoke deck, which is literally what it was literally designed for, the convoke precon. That was its purpose, and I think it's very good there. It's in 95% of castle decks, so I think EDH Rec agrees. And then the rest, it's like, yeah, it has a couple spots here and there. It really, like, if you tap these elementals to convoke stuff out, you're burning, so it's extra damage. It's great in that specific deck, and everything else is like, you can take it or leave it, honestly. 1%'s real solid there.
It's firmly in the 1%.
Firmly 1%. It's solid.
I don't think it's underrated. I'm thinking it might be even overrated.
Oh,
It's not
I
even
think
good in Kazla.
So you use this in a combo kill. If you do this in anything but that's not a combo kill, I think you die. Like, you don't want to make your tokens at sorcery speed and like pump out like 50 tokens because people will be like, oh my goodness. If you don't immediately convoke those tokens and kill someone, like no one's letting you untap with this. You can make tokens at instant speed, which is what you really want to be doing. Are there elemental token decks? Like, are there decks that care the fact that they're elementals?
Elemental, like maybe like in a deck where it plays with like yeah, Omnath is fine, or maybe you just can make enough tokens like Young Pyros and all of that stuff, and then you play Coat of Arms.
Yeah. Like I feel you need to kill someone immediately, or everyone's gonna try to murder you when they see this happen. And the fact that it's sorcery speed makes it very difficult to force through. So 1% probably
combo
right.
kill with it. Like there's that battle that like the backside is like all your spells have convoke, and it's like super fun. And then you pair that with like Jessica's Will, and every single time you cast a non-creature spell, you untap everything. So like you can kill people in one turn. And those all are colors that fit in Kazla, but like, yeah, outside of that, it's like bleh. Bleh.
Okay, so that's three rated. So I guess that's a downvote, right?
Yeah, that's a downvote.
Bulgartier of Mormont. I can't read this. Bulgartier of Morum. That's just a user Reddit name, by the way. The card is Open the Way. It's a good card for so many EDH builds, even land decks. It can be useful in many decks, and is such a good card. So Open the Way. X green sorcery. X can't be greater than the number of players in the game. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X land cards. Put those lands onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Underrated? It's 2%.
What is it? What is this? Is 2%?
Underrated. Final offer. I think this card's good. Like, it's like worst case, it's an explosive vegetation that gets like non-basics, and if you have 3 opponents, which you usually do, you can pay 5 mana and get 3 lands, and they're not basics again. So like if you're like in a Gates deck or whatever, then you're gonna be getting like 3 Gates or like good utility cards and stuff like that, like Field of Dead and whatnot. Like it just works. There's so many different lands decks that like they care about utility lands that are not basics, and then just having a nice little ramp card that like, yeah, you don't get to tutor up those lands, but like 5 mana, get 3 of your sweet lands that your deck is built around, like Kazazon or whatever. That's real good. I like that. And then it's an X spell, so it works with those X commanders again, but I like it. Underrated.
Are we in the realm of just like get random lands for 5 mana?
Yeah.
3 random lands?
3, yeah, random lands. Like Like, is that better than, say, Hour of Awakening or whatever?
Hour of Promise.
Hour of Promise.
So
You get
5 mana,
you get
search
two
for
lands.
2 lands from your deck.
Yeah.
3 is
But
better
they don't have to be
than
basic.
2.
3 is better than 2, but
But you
like,
get to choose.
yeah. Choosing the 2
Versus,
lands.
and then the other one is like Explosive Vegetation and all their variants, where you
Oh.
search for 2 lands, usually a forested type or basic type, and then put them on the battlefield.
2% sounds rated, because in this, especially in a singleton format, I want specific lands, not random lands. Like I don't know. I think this is rated. I think this is rated properly.
This card is so underrated. I didn't even know it existed. I'm gonna put it in every deck.
It's because
So
it's from
the-
Aftermath. Nobody bought Aftermath. And so, like, silly.
So like, who plays basics anymore, right? So the
I
fact
do.
that we can ramp hard without basics is really good.
Tomer died on the inside.
The
Did you-
fact that you
know.
can 3 mana ramp. So this is 3 mana ramp or 4 mana ramp or 5 mana ramp. It fixes your ramp curve, right? Like the worst thing you could be doing is like you have 2 Explosive Vegetation ramp spells in your hand or something, and then you're stuck on 3 mana, right? Or the opposite, you draw like 4 Farseeks or something, right? And then you're on like turn 3, you have 4 mana, you're still Farseeking, it feels bad. Like you want to be really snapping off Explosive Vegetations. So this being able to smooth out the ramp curve, getting non-basics, I will definitely take 2 random non-basics over 2 basics any day for 1 additional mana.
I'm sad.
So I really like Open the Way. And I play Hour of Promise on all my decks. I play Pier's Room. I don't play any of the basic ramp anymore. Like I pay 1 more mana to do the non-basic one. The fact that this is 5 mana, get 3 lands
Correct.
is incredible.
It's correct.
So
It's not correct.
I'm gonna play this
It's not
everywhere, actually. And the fact you can do 3, you can Kodama's Reach it, right? Like well, you don't get the card draw, but you get to smooth out your curve. So
Yeah. Do you,
I really
okay,
like
I have a
this.
question. I have a question for this one. This versus Tempt with Discovery, which one's better?
Tempt. Tempt is way better, right?
Grim is not.
How is this even a question? Every time we play Tempt, it's like 4 mana, ramp 4.
That's sad.
Like get your land
Boy.
combo.
No, it's not.
Get the
no, it's not.
Coffers Vesuva Herbivore combo out on the battlefield right here.
It's not, though. It's because I think this card, but then the problem here is you will always tempt people, because that is, I guess tempt, because most people will always take the land no matter what, or some people will just take the land anyways. And then you just paid 4 mana to get 2 lands of your choice. So, like, even if you just got 1 land from the initial cast and 1 other person gets it, that's still 2 lands. So I guess, tempt.
Yeah, I think Tempt is cracked too. But this one's kind of fun. I don't know. I want to try it. I've never cast a spell before.
So searching is more powerful because you can do this. So you can always tempt up an Ancient Tomb or a Temple of the Fall. Like if you get a single land, you can still get 2 mana.
It's always Field of the Dead. It's always
you can catch up, right? Like you can get the same effective mana as attempt on 1 land versus random 2 lands coming off Open the Way. And then there's just random upside of Seth being at the table, and then you get to do whatever you want. But I think Open the Way is criminally underrated. I think
The Seth effect.
Explosive Vegetation should go out and Open the Way come in. And then we all play like 0 basics or 1 if you suspect a Path to Exile player sitting around somewhere, and you could just play everything. You can't get MDFCs off this, which may be actually a positive. So you don't waste your MDFC by ramping it out. So I really like this. Next card from Ray. Symmetry Matrix is a lot better than it reads. Let's see how it reads. 4 mana artifact. It's from Brothers War. Whenever a creature with power equal to its toughness enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card.
No way.
I love this card.
This is some tough deck building here.
I love
you
this
gotta,
card.
You gotta build a deck and you gotta look at how many of these things happen.
This is for go wide decks. This is like if you're making 1/1s or whatever, or 4/4s or whatever. Like it's literally just Mentor of the Meek but
Yeah.
colorless, and it works for even bigger creatures too. But like, it's basically just Mentor of the Meek, just in an artifact form, and it's like I don't like this in decks that have like a lot of really good card draw options. But like, if you're in like Boros or whatever, and you really want, like, I had it in General Ferris, Rockerick, and Othari most recently. They just poop out tokens, and they all trigger Symmetry Matrix. Yes, you have to pay 1 for it each time. So it's kind of like, I think it's like an upgraded Mind's Eye for decks that want more card draw. That's where I'm at with it. It's Mentor than me, but it's like Mind's Eye for.
This is a 0%er, by the way.
Yeah,
This
it's.
is a
I think it's
0%er.
underrated. I don't think it's like, you don't want this to be in your deck at the end of the day, budgetless. But like,
Not what you
it's-
want to hear, but yeah, okay.
I think it's much better than 0%. I feel people just like forgot that this card existed or just didn't read it properly.
It's an uncommon from Brothers War, so maybe people don't even know about it.
Yeah, I think so.
I think this is kind of rated, dude.
Well, that's 0%. Gosh.
Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I do feel like it's very much so rated.
Like every token deck should be playing this. No? Especially if you're a Convoke deck, you should definitely be playing this.
Well, like, if I have access
Doesn't
to
that
like,
just put it
Toski-
above 0?
If I have access to like Toski, I'm not running this card. But if I don't have access to like Toski and Coastal Piracy and nonsense, then I want this card. I want to draw cards.
It has to be
What
creature
about
with
non-token?
power.
I feel there are
equal-
non-token decks that can play this. Like, you just look at your deck list and you're like, actually, like 75% of my creatures are like XX. Then you just chuck it in there. Just like Mentor, right? You're like, actually, all my creatures are weenies. Let me just throw a Mentor in there and like call it a day. So I think you gotta do that check with this card.
You think it's
like 1 mana more for a hardier Mentor of the Meek? Isn't that worth it?
It's not Mentor the Meek though. It's
Like,
not.
why is Mentor so much
Better.
better than this?
It's 3 mana. It's
Okay.
reoccurable because it's on a body. Sure, if you're an artifact deck, you can bring this back, but then why do you need this?
That's
Like,
true.
like, I don't know. I mean, it.
It doesn't get swept up with the damnation. You can rebuild.
doesn't.
Mentor dies with it, right? But you can reanimate Mentor with a Dusk Dawn or something later. But I think this is in the realm of Mentor levels, no?
I mean, look.
What is Mentor's play rate here?
Well, remember that Mentor might have a spiked play rate also because Mentor the Meek-
7%.
Yeah.
Mentor is a 7%er. This is a 0.
Like, I'm not even super happy with Mentor of the Meek in 2023 because I just don't like paying mana to draw cards. I want to draw cards for free. but like, honestly, I still run Mentor in a lot of my white decks that don't have access to like all my white and Boros decks. I usually run Mentor. All my white and Boros decks, I'm gonna be running Symmetry Matrix. I don't know.
Welcoming
So
Vampire.
I'm thinking Barragon, and a lot of the
Vampire's
problems I have with Mentor is like my creatures get pumped beyond the Mentor range,
Mhm.
and then it's like super scuffed, right? But this thing,
Yo, this
works
is great
still.
for you.
yeah, I'm actually thinking this is
You gotta,
really
you gotta
underrated.
trust me. Like, General Ferris Rockerick has the same issue. Your tokens that you're pooping out are 4/4, so you can't draw cards off Welcoming Vampire Mentor than me. But this one does. This one does it.
Maybe it is underrated because like yeah, okay. I'll say
The bar of
underrated.
0%.
0%.
The bar of 0%.
That's like that's you know what? I could see that it could go in a deck.
Hell yeah.
Or-
Yeah, the bar is so low that we just have to convince Crypt to be at 1%. It's not
Yeah, like-
0.
like-
Yeah, I mean, can it make it to 1%? I don't think it should go up 0.00001% counts. Will you give it a 1%er?
I'll take 1%.
I don't know if I
Look,
can
Seth's
give it a
still playing Mind's Eye in 2023. You telling me this isn't good enough?
That's why I
Dude,
was
I-
cautious about giving my endorsement to this because I'm like, oh, I heard the comment section already. Be like, well, Tomer hates Mind's Eye, but he likes this one. Well, this one costs 1 less mana, and you get to get it on your turn, not have to wait for your opponent's turn to draw your card, so you can use your cards immediately. That's why comment section. That's why.
I don't know if I could give this a whole percent, dude. I
Come on.
yeah,
Come on.
sure. All right, yeah, for the benefit of Yeah. Okay. You know what? Yeah.
All right,
sure.
it doesn't even matter what your opinion is. Chris.
Yeah.
You already got
two
that
upvotes
vote.
already.
Yeah.
Do you want to toe the line? Do you want to join us here, be part of the cool group?
Sure.
Or do you want
Sure.
to rebel?
I guess.
Okay, last card. From Castratal Liars, Irenicus's Vile Duplication.
I think this
So-
card.
Let's
wait.
read the
Oh,
card.
yeah.
4 mana sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it has flying and isn't legendary if that creature is legendary.
This card's
It's
insane.
uncommon from Baldur's Gate.
Mhm.
This card is absolutely cracked. It's a very good card. But and at this point though, like I'm surprised it's only 3%.
Same.
I think this card is severely underrated. This should be up around like 7 to 9%. Like this card is very good.
I have to agree with Krim because there's so many of my decks that the best card in my deck is my commander, right? Like that's just like typical for the format where like you build in a deck around your commander, you're building your deck to make your commander shine, right? And a lot of the times having a second commander on the battlefield just means it's just more broken. And like half my blue decks, I would say, half of them, unless I'm like a Voltron strategy or something, I care about commander damage or something like that, where I don't actually need a second version of my commander. Most of the time, having a second commander, my second value engine on the battlefield is just busted. And so like it's almost boring how good this card is that like half the time, most of the times when I'm looking at my blue decks, would it be better to have Irenicus Vile Duplication? The answer is usually yes. This card is silly. Same with like Sakashima, like the partner Sakashima thing. Like that one's also silly good too. Like all those things, like copy your commander and just ignore the legend rule. Broken.
I'm torn on this. So on one hand, it is extremely good in certain decks. Like even if it's not your commander, like all the good creatures nowadays are legendary. So the fact that you can clone them is very important. And also flying just as random upside. You're now, you have a flying blocker, you have something with evasion you could hit with, stuff like that. But do you play this or do you just play random generic clone? Because there is the case where your deck fails to function. You can't get the piece out, and then you're holding this thing in your hand. With a clone, you can copy your opponent's bomb card and like crawl your way back into the game. So do you play generic 4 mana clones or do you play duplication? Like it's the same like Glasspool Mimic, Phantasmal Image you can copy your opponents, but like Glasspool Mimic, stuff that lets you copy your creatures but at a discount versus paying a bit more to copy your opponents. That I'm unsure of.
I think it's like high risk, high reward. Because obviously if you can't have your commander stick, then this card is really gets a lot worse than just like an average clone. But like I don't know. Once you get the commander on and you get to cast this, it's just like so many decks are just like super powered at that point. Underrated for me.
I think it's criminally underrated. Criminally
underrated.
Yeah,
Criminally underrated.
I think it's underrated.
should be about-
too.
This should be about again, like it is at 3%. This is at least 7%. At least. I think this card is so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a spell, which could be relevant, like a lot. So there are a bunch of clones that are creatures and then a bunch of clones that are spells. So the fact that this is a spell might be relevant for certain decks as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Being able to copy like having pingers that cast off like a non-creature or something like that. I played in my Gearson Starn deck, thus doubling Gearson Starn. This card is just very good.
You can also fizzle the spell, which you can't fizzle on a creature clone, right?
Sure.
Like in response to this, they kill the creature.
Yeah. Like sometimes like
but
the
yeah.
spark doubles and stuff, it's better because it's on a creature as opposed to being a spell. But like, I don't know. Whatever.
Actually, I think maybe this be rated. There's a lot of good clones now that we talk about it, like Spark Double, Sakashima, Phantasmal Image, Pyrexia Metamorph.
But those
Like, how many
can't
clones can you
copy-
possibly?
Those can't copy your
running?
commander. Well, Sakashima
Can't copy your
can.
commander.
Sakashima
Yeah.
can,
But
Yeah,
also-
Sakashima's.
Spark
Because
Double
it's a
can.
spell, that's quite a benefit, right? Because what's blue do best? Cast its
Yeah.
spells again.
All right, you've convinced me. I flip flop. Underrated.
I think this should be like
Underrated.
10%. I agree with Krim. Like this card is probably the most underrated out of all of the cards.
Yeah, I don't even know.
I'm actually-
What does a 10% card even look like? What is a
I'm
10%
shocked.
card?
I am
don't know.
legitimately shocked this is only 3%.
Let me look at a 10% sorcery. Actually, 10% is pretty.
What's like a 10%
Okay.
blue card?
Vindicate, Night Whisper, Diabolic, Damnation is a 10%.
Vindicate.
Gamble is a 10%. Harmonize is 11%.
No.
Maybe it
Please.
is a 10%er. Okay. So that's our take. Have we managed to shift the Reddit thread around? I don't know. Let us know what your thoughts are on these cards. You can actually go to the thread and try to upvote or downvote your way and manipulate this.
Also, downvote is not a disagree button. That's
No,
what
no,
Reddit
this is-
says
that-
officially.
That's what
But
Reddit
nobody
says.
uses
We all
it.
use it the right way.
Yeah.
We don't agree. We downvote and we upvote if we agree.
I want to know also in
Once
the
in a
comment
while,
section.
if we
what's
disagree,
yours.
but it's very well written, we might upvote.
Yeah. I want to know in the comment section what's your most underrated cards, because we might do a react on the comment section next time.
Yeah.
I think
this
spreading
is new
play-
underrated cards,
spreading
which
play-
is why you see
Yeah.
a lot of the cards from March of the Machine, Brothers War, etc.
Yeah.
Dude,
So yeah, let's
March
know
of
in
the
comments.
March of the Machines. Just do that. It's all March of the Machine stuff.
Aftermath is oof. Chef's kiss.
That's too common. You gotta go March of the Machine Commander. Then no one knows what any of the cards are.
just pick New Capenna Commander cards, and I will never have read any of those cards. I swear. I did a video on them.
Okay.
I don't remember.
So let us know in the comments, and then we'll see you all back here next week. See ya.